Welcome to Pucked Up Hockey Moms, where the arenas are freezing, the group chats are unhinged, and the parenting, well, let's just say we're doing our best. I'm Amanda, hockey mom, chaos wrangler, and proud captain of the Bad Mom Squad.
And I'm Brittany, mom of three, two who play hockey, expert at juggling carpools, cold coffee, and the occasional emotional breakdown in the arena parking lot.
We're here to spill the tea on what it really means to raise hockey kids, from politics in the stands to mental health, bad calls, and everything in between. No filters, no fluff, just the truth. With a side of sarcasm.
And yeah, we're laughing through the madness, because if we didn't, we'd be crying into a damp mitt left in the trunk since last season.
So if you've ever screamed, "Move your feet," while secretly Googling the rules mid-game, you're our people.
This is Pucked Up Hockey Moms.
Let's get into it. I'm your host, Amanda.
And I'm Brittany.
And this week we have with us a man who spent his career in the hockey world, both in the professional and the collegiate levels. Welcome, Sandy.
Thank you. It's good to be here with you ladies.
Thank you so much for reaching out and wanting to come on the show. We're thrilled to have you here and share more about the mental edge side of things. So let's start off with you telling us a bit more about yourself and your background.
Sure. So I grew up on the East Coast, played competitive hockey on the East Coast, Tier 1. Ended up going to a prep school in New England for high school because I wanted to play in college. It was a different time back then. Love that experience. Lots of exposure. I think grew a ton as a person. Ended up going to college in Ohio, played out there. And really, most of my professional life, I've spent in the skill development business for hockey players. So never on the coaching side. I didn't want to chase that avenue. So it was almost like we didn't care who you played for. We're just in the development business, right?
Perfect.
Yeah, not loved by everybody, but we certainly loved it. But that was always my hope because the goal was always to try and make a positive difference on the people that we interacted with. And I never wanted to be beholden to this team or that team. Like ultimately, we don't care who you play for. We're just trying to help make you better. So that lasted many years. Had a big training facility in the Mid-Atlantic. We were doing hundreds and hundreds of private lessons on a weekly basis. Like it's way more than I ever thought.
Yeah.
But it really was like a hockey culture. It operated like a gym. People could come and go as they wanted. It was on ice, off ice. It was just, if someone basically had given me a check when I was 13 and said, go build your Disneyland, like that's what I would have built.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was great. And we worked with everybody, youth through professional. I spent most of my time in that capacity on the tier 1 players, the junior players, a lot of college players, a lot of professionals. And we did all areas of development. So skating, stick handling, shooting, hockey IQ, strength training, and absolutely loved it. And a big part of that has certainly led me to where I am today, but that was the backstory. So hockey's always been a part of my life, humongous passion, obviously. I have less hair now than I did then, but I still love it, and it's my life. So
That's awesome.
yeah,
Hockey's my passion only because of being a hockey mom. But yeah, that's great. Okay.
yep. You caught the bug. Caught the
I
bug.
did.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yep.
For listeners who might not be familiar, can you tell us about Mental Edge Hockey and what inspired you to start it?
Yeah. So, I would say informally, towards the end of the on ice skill training, I started wrestling with total player development, right? So what was the missing piece? Why would kids or younger players, lose the fire, lose the passion, right around that maybe, you know, U16 age. So we got deep into the mindset piece and really started doing a lot of coaching and training, a lot of programs, confidence building, certainly attitude at that young age. And pretty quickly, I had mostly on the pro side or higher level players reaching out and saying, I'm not exactly sure what the issue is, but something's not right, right? I'm not maximizing my potential or whatever. Spent a couple years really putting together a really comprehensive program, pulled from the hundreds of amazing coaches and cultures that I've been involved with, and the cultures that weren't so great. And studied it anyway in college. And my mom is on the mental health side of things. She's retired now, but so I think it's always kind of been there, the
Mhm.
teacher and the explainer. And Mental Edge Hockey was born right around when COVID started, and we really specialize in mindset development. And I keep saying that word mindset. I don't use the phrase mental performance too much. This is my personal. I think there's a little bit of a stigma around that you must be broken and therefore need to be fixed. And I have a completely different thought process on that. But we specialize in mindset development. The majority of our work is on the one-on-one side. Customized programming where we go through all aspects of mindset. Do a lot of organizational things now, bigger pieces to be able to kind of plug and play
Mhm.
very holistically, because so much of the mindset component, belief, confidence, focus, emotional control, so much of that is a product of the home, right?
Mhm.
So we're not telling anybody how to parent, but I do think there is something that sports parents, although well intended, sometimes the messages aren't always
Mm-hmm.
the best. That's right. That's right. That's right. Yeah,
But yeah.
we're trying to help, but sometimes that doesn't always come across that way. But so fast forward a couple years, and do lots of kind of speaking engagements, lots of showcases, but all on the mindset, and what people kind of go from there is, belief, attitude, grit, focus, emotional control, discipline, self-awareness. So we do courses, clinics, one-on-one coaching, plug and play models, but we do our best to kind of be on the customized side.
Yeah.
We don't do any generic, one size fits all, and we only work with hockey players. So
That's great. And you said it started during COVID, so that's kind of like the perfect timing, really, because there
Yeah.
were so many people that were isolated at that time. So it's like even more important that it would have
yeah.
needed to happen then. So is that the steps that you were talking about? Is that the unleashed system you have? Like, are those the foundational steps that you were just talking about?
So yes, the Unleashed, I always wanted to have um, a course, right, to
Hmm.
be able to kind of interact with a lot of people, but I pulled back from it because um, I didn't know how to make it personalized, like it wasn't customized. It took about a year and a half. I never thought that we would pull that off. It's a tremendous amount of work, but it's so insanely comprehensive. So there's 28 lessons. Everything's audio, video, go at your own pace. There's 120 tools, motivators, worksheets, palatable bites, but I think what I'm most proud of is that it's linear, right? I'm a big believer in it has to have a beginning, a middle, and an end, right?
Yeah.
You can't skip the steps. It's hard. That's the discipline, though. So the big thing for me was to make it linear, so that it was comprehensive, um, and that it got results. So that really is the foundation of that. We do sell it to organizations, but it's a big piece of the training. The customer gets it forever. It's kind of hard to build something that I could say to an 11-year-old and also a 17-year-old,
Yeah.
hey, there's common ground here. So that took a little bit, um, but yeah, so that's been terrific. That's been live for a couple years. I have a
Great.
parent course that's super popular,
Yeah.
but that's kind of the backbone.
That's a great asset. I mean, a lot of hockey associations, I'm sure, could use that too because that's
Yeah,
a
for
really
sure.
good tool. Yeah.
I wish that more of them. This is not against any program or any
Yeah.
like it's such a challenging job, and you're trying to move everybody across the finish line. Is
Mhm.
it a participatory model? Is it a development model? But what what I learned, I did not know this when I first started this, but what I have learned is like I'm really in the help grow great human being
Yeah.
business, right? Like hockey is just the vehicle, right? So many of these skills, right, are foundational skills. So I think when presented like that to an organization or a hockey director that says, "Hey, look, there's no disrespect to the coach or Maybe it's a parent coach. It could be a professional coach. Like, it's very gray, right? Like, when does the ice time end and when do other lessons begin? So, but confidence is huge, belief is huge, all the big ones, handling pressure, adversity, all those are big. So I wish that more organizations, it's changed a little bit, but the younger ages really are when the vocabulary should be introduced.
Absolutely.
You know, I think the younger kids are looking for clarity and the older kids accountability, right? Like, they don't always know that, but that's what I've seen.
Yeah.
Many young athletes struggle with performance anxiety, fear of making mistakes during assessments, tryouts, games, things like that. How does your approach assist players in overcoming these mental hurdles?
So that is a great question. So first of all, performance anxiety it's totally real, right? Like, it's a real thing. I think though it's important that players have to understand like what it is and why it's happening, right? Like, what are the drivers? And typically it's one of two things. There's either a fear of failure or some sort of false idea that you have to be perfect. And younger people, I know I struggled with this when I was younger, they're very outcome focused, right? Win, lose, I got a goal, I didn't get a goal, I let a goal in, I didn't let a goal in. When the irony is that the best way to get to the outcomes is you focus on the actions and behaviors that lead to the outcome. So on the anxiety side, I think a big one is understanding what it is, what is the true feeling, bringing it up to the surface, not trying to push it away, because a lot of times it's excitement maybe kind of masked in nerves. Physically, the body has the same exact responses. Our brain says, hey, this is nerves bad versus excitement good.
Yeah.
But so a lot of it is identifying. And then I think the biggest piece is, well, what should they be thinking about, right? Like, what should my thought patterns be? And with adolescent boys, like, this does not happen as much with girls, but with adolescent boys, I cannot tell you how many times, I'll say, how was your season last year? Or how were your games this past weekend? And I know you
Yeah.
can probably relate to this. It's good.
Yeah.
It's like one word, right?
One word
And
answers.
yeah, that's right. But it takes like 2 seconds, and I say, well, what does good mean? Right? Like, well, I don't even know what you're evaluating it on, but so what does good mean? And immediately there's like a blank canvas, right? So, gosh, if we don't even know, if we can't define success, it's going to be really, really hard to feel good about it, to feel empowered that you can achieve it, to track your progress, to build momentum. So much of it is, what's the goal? What can be controlled versus what can be impacted? Those are two totally different things.
Yeah, they are.
So I know it's a long answer, but it is real, and it has to kind of start with what are we really feeling at our core, and is it a fear of being judged, talked about, benched, any sort of repercussions? Because all the power is in the impact area. Like, what can you do, not what potentially could happen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found the same with my kids in school. You ask your kids how school was, and they're like, fine. So I started
That's right.
asking what was the best part of your day and what was the
Yes.
worst part of your day.
Yeah.
You
You're like,
actually get more than one word out of that.
It's more tangible.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right. You're like literally pulling teeth, right? But
Yeah.
I think for younger people, so much of the mindset piece is really steering thoughts, right? Like that open-ended question, Brittany, that you just said, right? Like, not yes or no, but leading them to an answer that's more than that, that triggers a thought pattern, right?
Yeah.
And that's a pretty big one.
I've also found with my kids and stuff, just because I've suffered from anxiety and depression in my life too, and didn't know what they were when I was younger, right? And like, again, excitement versus anxiety, you don't always know what the difference is. I found I've typically been like, these feelings are normal. There's nothing wrong with you, and you're not alone. And I know those
I
things
love that. I love that.
might sound simple, but like, the look of relief in my children's eyes when I say that
Yep.
is like, there's
That's
nothing
right.
wrong with me.
Yeah.
Like, no, there's nothing wrong with you. Everybody feels this way. But when you say everybody feels this way, you're kind of brushing it off. When you say that you're not alone and these feelings are normal,
Yep.
it accepts what they're feeling versus just brushing it off. I find. I mean, I'm not a professional. I just know what hurts my feelings or makes me feel brushed off when I'm anxious. So I can only relate to my own stuff, right? But I do find when I tell them that they're not alone and everything you're feeling right now is normal and it's okay, they generally calm down. And then they're like, yeah, yeah,
They
okay.
can refocus.
Yeah, and they refocus because they don't think that something's wrong with them, and I feel like they don't snowball.
Yeah.
So,
In the absence of specifics, right? So it
yeah.
could be the specifics of what should you think,
Yeah.
who are you really, what
Hmm.
is your identity, what are you
Yeah.
good at? In the absence of those,
Hmm.
like the mind still runs, but it does exactly what you just said. Like as humans, it's almost like there's a giant U-turn in that
Hmm.
all those thoughts, the doubt, the panic, the anxiety, that like it has to go somewhere.
Yeah.
So we turn it back on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And then we're everything is negative, everything
Yeah.
is falling apart. So much of that's why I think this is so important because
Yeah.
it's foundational, it's life, and you nailed it. I got this sign up right here. I say
Yeah.
this so many times to people, like,
Yeah.
well, now what, right? Like, you are where your feet are, right? Like,
Yeah.
this is the moment that matters,
Yeah.
not last shift, not last game, not
Hmm.
tomorrow. So, yeah, I think you're right. Empowering people to feel comfortable in the feelings.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay to have the feelings.
Yeah.
The comma is thoughts are just thoughts,
Yeah.
thoughts aren't facts,
Yeah.
No, exactly. Like
100%.
what,
right?
yeah, exactly. What someone's saying about you, what you're saying about yourself doesn't mean it's real. It's okay to feel them, but then you got to move past them and then think better things, like replace it with something else.
Even if you think it, I think that coach thinks this, I think that coach
Yeah.
thinks that, that player thinks that. Maybe they do, but
Maybe.
yeah, thoughts are just thoughts, right?
Yeah.
They're almost like suggestions, right?
Yeah.
Like, am I going to accept it? But we still come back to that, well, now what? And what can
Yeah.
I control?
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Parents often notice their kids are performing great in practice. And you're like, why can't we do this in a game? Right? Like
Yep.
I've seen it so many times, right? Or it's just a scrimmage against the two teams in house. And you're like, why? Why can we not translate that into a real game? What mental factors contribute to this and how can they be addressed?
The number one is focus.
Yeah.
The number one is focus, and I think that word gets thrown around
Hmm.
generically a lot, but here's the crazy thing about focus,
Hmm.
and I didn't come up with this, but I say this when I give presentations that this never fails, right? So if I said to you, Amanda, like right now, I don't want you to think about an elephant,
Now all I can see is an elephant.
or that, and the way the brain works, right? So the
Yeah.
brain doesn't work, the brain can't comprehend negatives. So
Hmm.
I know that it's well intended, but the amount of player, even at the professional level, who say, okay, this is what I'm going to do today or in this game, these are my pregame thoughts, right? Like, don't be nervous,
Yeah.
don't turn the puck over, don't miss the net. Like they think
Yeah.
that they're wiring themselves for success, but you're almost like inviting yourself to go back to the pausing of the tape that is uncomfortable and then trying to fight your way out of it. So much on the focus is like we can let that air out immediately. You don't have to spend any time trying to push the negative out.
Yeah.
Any player that's listening to this or a parent, that is not the goal. You can chop off half of the responsibility. You don't have to carry that burden around anymore.
Yeah.
True focus is forward thinking. Like what is it that we want? How locked into this current moment are we? And what does success mean? Because from focus, you can get into the discipline and the grit and all that, but being focused is the number one because it allows things, you're inviting things to come in because you're saying almost like, come on in, and then I'm going to get focused by pushing you away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's retraining what should we think about? And most of them probably don't have a system,
No, yeah. It's like the
right?
positive affirmations, right? People say it all the time, and I always get irritated by that sentence for some reason, but it's actually true. The positive
It is.
affirmations of saying positive things is more likely going to translate into a better result than the
Negative.
negative reinforcement.
Yeah. Well, and I love that also because that's a big part of the process somewhere is positive self-talk. And
Yeah.
that's we're all guilty of not doing that.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of make it be a priority. And I always suggest to people, certainly players, that if you wouldn't say it to a teammate, you can't say it to yourself. And that's a big one. Make a mistake, like, oh, you idiot, you're the worst one out here. It's like, ugh, you're you're
Chirping
you're already,
aside.
yeah, yeah. I didn't say what parents are saying. I said if you're saying that to, yeah, yeah. Um, so that's probably the most common thing though that parents ask is why isn't it translating? And players, if I peel back the layers, they feel one way in practice and they don't train for pressure. Our process trains people to handle pressure so they don't crack when it gets hot and heavy.
Your program emphasizes building unshakable confidence and resilience. Can you share some strategies or exercises that players can use to develop these qualities?
Yep. I think the first thing is recognizing that both of those aren't personality traits.
No.
Like those have to be built, those have to be developed, they have to be practiced, and it's dealing in specifics. I say this all the time, but specifics in get specifics out.
Mm-hmm.
And in the absence of specifics, like we've talked about, we start to ramble. There are no kind of guardrails. So unshakable confidence, I think, more than anything, is really about this concept of belief.
Mm-hmm.
And I differentiate. I do not believe that those belief and confidence are the same things. Everybody always says, I want confidence. But confidence is the place that you end up when you tap into belief. So if you think about a tree outside, I would say what you see above ground is confidence. What you don't see below ground is belief. So in
Mm-hmm.
that example, no roots, no tree, no belief, no confidence. Anytime a player is struggling with confidence, I want to be confident, I don't feel like I'm confident. It's so easy to kind of manufacture that
Mm-hmm.
anybody can do this. If you think back in their hockey lives, I always ask them, I say, well, think back to last season. A great game, a great save. You scored. Everybody was going nuts. Everybody saw it. You probably remember the rink where you were. You remember the uniform you were wearing. And they always like start to smile and blah blah blah. And I say, just real quick, how does that feel? Right? Like, does it feel
Yeah.
like you got energy and you're ready to go? They say, yeah, yeah. And I say, that feeling, that's called confidence. But the way that we got there, that took 5 seconds. The way that we got there was tapping into belief.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you believe, that is the foundation. So
Mm-hmm.
getting to feel confident and understanding that confidence is not a feeling, it's a choice.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the route that you have to take to get there is through belief. So
Mm-hmm.
pregame routines, in-game mantras, everything has to be rooted in belief.
Yeah. And it's so hard too because like sometimes you'll see a kid who does have confidence and then everyone's like, "Oh, they're so cocky, they're so cocky." And then they try and beat them down a little bit. And
Yep.
you're like,
Yep.
"Don't take it away from them. They're building
Yeah.
up
Yep.
their skills."
Yep. I agree with you. We
Yeah.
see that a lot. I see that a lot, especially in maybe skill sessions out of our market. That kids don't know how to be confident, and like you said, it's almost like they really want to wear it externally, right?
Yeah.
You don't have to be the loudest. You don't have to walk, the tallest, but you do have to have the most amount of belief.
Yeah.
Um, and that is where it starts.
Yeah. How do you tailor your coaching to accommodate different age groups and skill levels for players versus professionals?
I think you always have to meet the player where he or she is. It's a lot of listening. It's a lot of rewiring for the older players. Like I mentioned earlier, they really need accountability, right? So a lot of habits, good or bad,
Yeah.
have really kind of already been created. So a lot of it is almost unlearning some things to kind of rebuild with a strong base. But I've always thought that, you have to listen. You have to listen, you have to hear. They want to be heard. You have to create platforms and environments where it's okay to say, I feel blank or I think
Mm-hmm.
blank. Like you said, they're not broken, they're not weak, they're not a wimp. And I don't know if that's always common for younger people. You don't have to you can wear the armor, but only after you solidify what's inside, right? You don't have to put it up as defense. I say put it up as offense.
Yeah.
right? So it really depends on where are they, how do they identify with their personality traits, and what is their vision of success, right? Like there has to be a target. What are we chasing? So those are big ones.
For parents listening, what signs should they look for that might indicate to them that their child could benefit from something like mental performance coaching?
Well, I the signs are always there.
Mm-hmm.
They might not always be loud, but they're always there. So the amount of parents that say to me, little Sally or little Johnny, or even the older players, when they start talking about hesitating, or a parent might say there's a lack of what they think is aggression, focus, like they're not that aggressive. I don't know what it is. How do you teach being aggressive? For a lot of those situations, the player is, I don't know if I should turn left. I don't know if I should turn right. So I'm just going to stay neutral.
Yeah.
And that looks like hesitation. It looks like fear. It looks like being unsure. I, I suggest to parents, whether you see the signs or not, it's almost like drinking water when you're thirsty. Like you're already dehydrated, right? If you kind of front load it, um, that I think is where the greatest kind of humans are made, and therefore the greatest athletes, can be made. I I think if they're quiet, if they, as a younger player, maybe had something happen where a coach is yelling at them, things that really tap into emotional instability.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes this happens at school, right? Hockey, what happens on the ice, good or bad, is a factor of what's happening at school, and kind of vice versa. So I think it's listening, and I think it's steering conversations.
Yeah.
As coaches, as parents, we want to solve, right? We always want to solve so that the player or child feels no pain, right? And in our quest to protect, we're really not teaching how to live, how to get back up, how to be gritty. I think the big one is steering. I think, Brittany, you mentioned it earlier, rather than even feeding into like the one words, right? I mean, how many
Mm-hmm.
times as a parent after the game, the kid's in the car going berserk, and the parent's trying to do right, doesn't know how to talk him or her off the ledge.
Hmm.
I always suggest to parents that they listen, and
Mm-hmm.
they let the player or the child feel heard, acknowledge it. Well, what do you think would be a way that could be made better, right? It's almost like let them vent for a second, but move out of the venting phase. Don't feed into it. Get out of it and lead them out of it.
Almost let them control a little bit of like, well, what could have made that better? Like what
Yeah,
steps or what play or
Get them
because
talking and
yeah,
thinking and
that's not and the reason why it's not because I think every younger person has to be this lone wolf where they can solve every issue, but I do think it's important that they understand things they can control versus
yeah,
things that they can impact versus
yeah,
things
mm-hmm.
they have to let go,
yeah,
right? Those are the three buckets that I think younger people have a more challenging time
yeah.
bouncing in between. Here, yeah, what?
That's it's like a cognitive behavioral therapy technique
That's
kind of,
right.
right?
That's exactly right. Yep.
Yeah, so you're taking a like because most I'd say a lot of society is a matter of like how to I don't know how to say it properly right now. Like it's what me like I'm the victim versus like how can I look at this shifting my brain to okay, this is how I feel, but how did the whole situation make others feel and how can I control my reaction to it? Right?
There you
Like
go.
I can only control my words, what I say, and how it makes me feel, but I can't actually control how my words impact someone else, how my actions impact someone else. And that is a very big thing in helping confidence too. So,
And that's why I think it's so needed, because the younger players, one of the things outside of focus, right? I can't tell you how
mm-hmm.
many pucks I've taken to the shin when you're like, "Can everybody calm down out here, please?" Right? Is emotional control, and
Mm-hmm.
it's very, very hard, even
Yeah,
for the older players, it's very
yeah,
hard to learn how to act with emotion and not because of it, right?
yeah,
So it's just younger. It's normal for younger people to just get in, like you said, and everything is, this was happened to me. I didn't get ice
yeah,
time. No one passed me
yeah,
the puck. So it's like you got to empower them to get out of that
Yeah.
And
And currently
because
our society like almost just wants our kids to be happy, so we feed into that. They're like, yeah, you should have had more ice time and you should have had more minutes and like this should have happened, versus like, well, the whole game needed this and other people might have been at the same time, right? And
yeah,
understanding big picture thinking, and that's still a hockey IQ thing too, is understanding the
absolutely,
whole play, whereas a lot of players are currently set on their skills and their position, but not the entire picture on the ice of what's happening. But I also think that this kind of program should be initiated by Hockey Canada, USA Hockey at the grassroots level, because if it started super young and moved up, then all we're doing is creating more mindful,
absolutely.
well-adjusted humans.
I agree completely. I always ask players
Mm-hmm.
because I've become almost like an expert in like adolescent boy talk, right? Like
Yeah.
I can speak that age, right? So it's sometimes the messages they're like, "What?" So I have to break it down. But I always ask them. I say, "Imagine that we're playing pond hockey. Gorgeous day, blue sky. All your buddies are out there. There's no worries. We're loving it."
Mm-hmm.
And the puck kind of goes towards the edge of the ice, and all of a sudden the ice cracks, and you and I fall into the water, and we're both up to our waist in water.
Mm-hmm.
At that moment, it's probably not the moment to say, "I thought you were checking the ice." No, I thought you were checking the ice, right? It's like what's important right now? Like right now, we got to get
Survival.
out of the
Yeah.
ice. Right. Well, that thought process I think is like you have to learn that, right? So it's always what now,
Mm-hmm.
so and younger people I think want that because it gets them on the resolution bus to start moving out of pain, hurt, frustration,
Yeah.
so that they can refocus, so
Mm-hmm.
that they can go out and hit the ice better the next time. Like that's the
Yeah.
goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beyond individual coaching, do you offer resources or workshops for teams and organizations to integrate mental training into their programs? Like I know you talked about it a little bit.
Yep. So we have something called the Mental Edge Blueprint,
Yeah.
which it can support a team or an organization for whatever the time frame is, a month, half season, or full season. Those are typically the
Okay.
three. All ages, all levels, um, supported by a lot of course training, a lot of live Zoom sessions. Parents are also brought in, coaches are brought in, because I really think what's important is that if everybody's speaking the same language and understands like what are the parameters, it's always been my opinion that the people who are going to benefit the most are the people who should be benefiting the most, who are the reasons why we are doing what we're doing. It's for
Yeah.
the younger people. So we do have things that can support an organization from top to bottom for an entire season. And I also think it's so important because most people, I think, left to their own devices will at some point say, as I would have said when I was that age, "I don't need mental training," or "Sally doesn't need this, she is the leading scorer," or "there's no problems." And it's like, it's almost like that's not even what we're saying, right? We're just trying
Yeah.
to build a better foundation. Yep.
You've worked as a collegiate level skills coach. How did that experience shape your understanding of the mental side of hockey development?
That when I got to that level, that was a really big experience for me because I think that it really solidified understanding that talent, I think, is a little bit overrated. It certainly matters. Skill development matter, all of it matters. But at that top level where everybody has jump, everybody has game, everybody can do everything, right? There are big bodies everywhere. Very rarely is it the on ice skills that are separating,
Mm-hmm.
those who are achieving and those who aren't. So I, I think that was a big opportunity for me to really understand that kind of talent can move needles, but something bigger is what will move the masses, or
Mm-hmm.
the was a lot of focus
Yeah.
on the destination, the outcomes. And so I think that experience was really, really solid for me to kind of get the process down, and even to see these high level players, because I'd seen so many of them, but maybe in a one on one setting, but to see the whole dynamic, how are they dealing with all of the challenges? What habits do they have? Are they habits versus routines?
Mhm.
A lot of them talk motivation when they probably should have been talking discipline. So those were big pieces, and I think I learned a lot about the concept of grit, which is so important.
Yeah. What's one of the biggest mindset gaps you noticed in the college athletes, even at the elite level?
I think that the more talented train their identity more than their game, right? Like they're not always tying confidence to results.
Hmm.
That it's deeper. The process, the discipline, the habits, they run deeper, and because they run deeper, I think that the roots are stronger. The tree is going to grow taller, and
Hmm.
be more substantial. But I think one of the biggest challenge was is that they still think that they're hockey players first and foremost, and I would say that I always want them to be competitors first, leaders first, grinders first, grittier people first, and then you can apply those skills to school, hockey, baseball, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I think when that change is made, I think that mindset shift is kind of what changes everything.
You touched on it a little bit about like at the college level, they're kind of their skills are all on the same level for the most part. But how do you balance physical skill training with mental toughness work when you're coaching players at a higher level like that?
Yeah, it's daily, right? So the biggest challenge that I run into, I think any mindset coach or anybody in this field would say this is that improvements can happen very, very quick, and they're noticeable to a spectator, a parent, or they're noticeable to the player. Like there are a couple things that will change really, really quick, and therefore sometimes they might skip some steps, they take their foot off the gas pedal. So I think the balance is that mindset development training or mental toughness training isn't something that just kind of gets flipped on when it's compete mode. I think it's a skill that's practiced daily.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it's a lot less about kind of looking out of windows and looking in mirrors, a lot less of broad awareness to deep focus.
Mm-hmm.
But 5-10 minutes a day for so many players is like life changing. How do you see yourself? How do you talk to yourself? How often are you tapping into belief? Because when that self starts to change, it's like you're upping the game every day, that like your new normal is getting 1% stronger every single day. So it wasn't like this is gym time, this is nutrition time, this is mindset time. I think mindset is at the very top of the pyramid, and it trickles into everything, but it should be daily, no doubt.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's super important.
Mm-hmm.
I'm definitely going to encourage my children to,
Yeah.
to train their mindset as well as just shooting pucks in the barn now.
Yeah. Yeah. And with whatever they're doing,
Hmm.
it's got to be purposeful. It has to be, yeah, it has to be on purpose. It has to be intentional. When intentionality and purposefulness, I think, enter into the equation, that's when the growth starts to be seen.
Yeah, like it's really asking them like what are you trying to achieve? Like what do you want this to help
Yep.
you get better at, right? Like if you're trying to be grittier in the corner or whatever, like what do you want to get out of this mindset training? But yeah, that's hard to talk to with kids and stuff sometimes, but at the same time if that's their goal, then those are the conversations that should be had
I
for
think
sure.
two things are so important with that concept. Number one is we talk a lot about what's the why, right? Like what's
Hmm.
the why are you grinding like this? And you both of you can relate to this. Like why are we traveling all over the Northwest? Like
Yeah.
what's the goal here? And it doesn't have to be pro, like I'm not saying
No.
that, but there has to be
Yeah.
a target, right? Like tapping
Yeah.
into the
Mm-hmm.
why is important, not just because that's the
Exactly.
direction we're headed, but it also helps to build grit. And for younger players, younger
Hmm.
people, the concept of grit is hard because it's not immediate, right? Being gritty is willingness to do hard things, passion and purpose, passion and perseverance for long term goals.
Hmm.
Right. That it's like the reason why we're grinding today, because today matters, not because you're going to achieve everything tomorrow, but
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
when you add up all the todays, like that's what equals the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, the
And
million little steps to get to the dream. They don't just
that's
happen
right.
overnight. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
okay that they don't, because we're not trying to achieve today. We're trying to add one more brick,
Hmm.
because eventually you're
Yeah.
going to have a huge house.
Yeah. And reminding them that like it's not just about instant gratification, right? And that's
Right.
hard.
So big today with
It's
kids and
yeah,
stuff.
kids
Yeah.
just because everything technology wise is just instant,
Yeah.
instant, instant, right? Like that shot, that goal, like that's immediate like gratification for them, and that's just not what life is.
How it
It's
works
not
in general.
realistic. So yeah, getting them to understand that. So
But the
that's hard.
technology piece is interesting, because, and I won't even
Mhm.
get into the whole part of
I
that,
know.
but the challenge there though is, yes, there's so many clips and highlights, and what
Hmm.
what is never seen is the grind behind the
Yeah,
highlight.
the behind the
It's
scenes. Yeah.
Yeah, like what led to that,
Yeah.
and that's a big deal.
Yeah. I will say I'm starting to see at like more of the camps and like in BC we have like our program of excellence or whatnot. I went to for a U18 program for my daughter. And they had a mindset course. So like each team of the 10 teams went to a mindset course, which was great because those things need to be incorporated if you're trying to get to the next level. So it is starting to slowly move its way along, and that is good to see. So
Yeah, I agree.
yeah.
I definitely agree.
Let's talk about your book, 99
Yeah.
Rules Every Player Should Know. What drove you to write this?
So originally I had written the first book for hockey players. And then the more I kind of thought about it, I said, well, a lot of this stuff really applies to just athletes, right?
Hmm.
So there's nothing in the book that's hockey specific. It's not a how to it's not an academic book,
Yeah.
but I wanted to create something that I thought would be portable. You can flip through to any page, pull out some nuggets, be inspired by it, highlight it, put some notes there that was quick hitting and had impact. And that was where the first book, so 99 Rules Every Athlete Needs to Know. Um, and I was blown away by people's support of it. And I say that, I promise you, with like zero ego. I was just so
It's
happy.
confidence.
No, I was so happy that, because that's what I would have wanted to read when I was younger. Like, just give me
Yeah.
Yes,
something,
for
maybe a
sure.
reset for today or something.
Yeah. Bite-sized pieces.
Yeah, it's like a James Patterson book, right? Like the guy, he writes the chapters are a page and a half. You read 30 chapters, you feel so great, but you read like
Yeah.
Yeah.
3 pages.
Yeah.
Um, the more time I spent in that one,
Hmm.
it was I said, gosh, I think there could be an opportunity to have something similar
Hmm.
for the parents of those people, because
Yeah.
there is no book, there is no directions, right? It's just
Yeah.
like, here you go, do your best.
I know. People say that all the time. There is no rule to be, or like book to being a parent.
Yeah, you have the kid and the hospital's like, see you later. You're like, wait a minute,
Bye.
what? Yeah.
You're letting me take this thing home?
Yeah, yeah. So I wanted to be able to help. I wanted to be able to do it, something that had impact, and have some memorable kind of call outs that kind of tugged at the strings. And
Hmm.
I've had so many of those bizarre conversations with parents where, I'm not giving parenting advice, but
Yeah.
um y- you can't talk to that person here, like what you do, and like you said, there's no rule book on how to do it, or no encyclopedia. So um I tried to bottle up as much as I could from things that I'd learned.
Hmm.
A lot of, I think, the things in there probably were because at one point I did them wrong, or
How we learn.
that is how we learn. Yep.
Yeah.
So that's what led me to it, and it's been awesome. It's been awesome.
Out of those 99 rules for that every player should know, is there one that players constantly overlook, but you think it's a total game changer?
Yep. I'm almost gonna say no. I'm almost gonna say I think it's Rule 14, that is, confidence is not a feeling; it's a choice.
Yep.
Okay.
I think once younger people understand that, like, you can see the weight come off, like their shoulders. I think that's a pretty empowering one. So
Yeah.
That's probably the one for the player book.
Yeah.
And what's one rule or lesson you wish every hockey parent would learn yesterday?
Mm, this is like a pop quiz. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say it's don't quote me here on the rule number. I think it's in the fees. I don't think parents have to remove the job doesn't have to be to remove every obstacle.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think the job is, and you can take the car rides to the rink, from the rink, if we just kind of limit it to that, because again, I'm not telling people how to parent, but
Yeah.
I think it's to build them so they can handle the obstacles.
Yeah.
Not so they have to never have them,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
but sometimes the bruises are okay. Um, the teaching of the get back up, the fall seven, get back up eight.
Yeah.
So I wish more parents of athletes kind of thought that or considered that,
Hmm.
because I think two things happen. I think it's easier for everybody. I think the players or the athletes can go be athletes, and the parents can be parent and coach parent or parent coach, and let the kid drive the car. Not if they're
Yeah.
underage, but let like let them steer the ship. It's their ship,
Yeah.
and they might run into some challenges, but that's part of the growth. That's the growth mindset, getting into growth zones versus the comfort zones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not helping them by taking the obstacles out of the way.
No, I had this really great conversation with a mom I'd never met at some tryouts a couple weeks back, and we were talking about kids need to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
We need to let them make mistakes. We want to help them fix things. I get it. You never want them hurt. You don't want them to cry, but that's not helping them in life. Yes, they need to, like we always said when they were learning how to skate, like the best part is like about falling is learning how to get back up, right? So, yeah,
Absolutely.
every time you fall, you're learning how to get back up. But the same goes for every mistake. Like they have to learn how to fail because that's how they learn how to succeed. And by bubble wrapping them, we're taking away like the success path for them. They
That's
don't know
right.
what real success feels like if we take away their chance to fail, if we take away their chance to make mistakes. And I'm not saying that they need to go get high in the bushes. I'm saying, you
Not
know,
those mistakes.
not those mistakes. Like
Yeah.
knowledge is power. We
Yep.
teach them, give them the knowledge, give them the tools to make good choices. I always say that when they're going to do something, I'm like, make good choices, but
Me too.
they need to make some mistakes, and we need to teach them what forgiveness is. But if they don't make those mistakes, they can't succeed and they can't feel that actual success. And we're taking away that victory from them if we're not letting them fail.
Sometimes you have to let the
Yeah.
bruise because that builds the backbone,
Yeah, and that builds
right?
the callus that makes the strength, right? And
Absolutely.
I can use a million analogies, and I'm not trying to to tell people how to parent either. It was just a really good conversation, and it was nice to have another parent say the same thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, let them make the mistakes. They don't have to be catastrophic. You're not telling them to go hit a pole, but like let them have a little bit of a leash, or like let the reins out just a little
A little
bit
bit,
so that
yeah.
they can make those mistakes.
Explore and they can find wins.
Yeah.
It's so normal for us to say, to pull back from that, to help them avoid the what if it doesn't work out. But the other side of that is, what if there was training and developing, so that what if to the negative turned to, well, what if it does work out, like
Mm-hmm.
what if I do get back up, so I agree with you. I think that's super important.
Yeah, we can share with them our experiences of why things didn't work for us,
That's
but
right.
that doesn't mean they have to follow that path or have to avoid that path. Like they can still make an informed choice based on that information we've given them, but that's
Yep.
their right. That's
And
their right.
I know it's hard because we all want that next generation to have an easier time than what we
Mistakes.
did, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, where's the balance between
I know.
the lessons and the sheltering, right? It's very,
Yeah.
very hard. Coaches, we deal with it with also, but I
Hmm.
think the parent book, I think it really does a good job of kind of reinforcing a lot of things that parents might think, maybe helps, kind of push them out of that gray area for things
Hmm.
like that. Like, it's okay to let them be them. It's okay to not think that your identity, the parent, is wrapped up in their identity, the player, right? Like, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, I know. I know. I always tell them, I'm like, if you quit hockey tomorrow, I would absolutely be sad and crushed, but it would be okay. And I would support you in whatever else you did.
Yep. And I asked parents in that same thing. I said, if they
Yeah.
did quit tomorrow, if the jersey went up,
Hmm.
what's the legacy of the human that we've
Yeah.
left behind, right? Like, and that really is the goal. That when at some point when sports stop for all of us,
Hmm.
like,
Yeah.
what's left?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why mindset matters.
Yeah,
It does.
for sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
yeah.
back to mindset. How do you help players build resilience when dealing with setbacks, like getting benched or cut from a team?
That's a big one.
Hmm.
I think first understanding that setbacks are setbacks if we let ourselves be defined by setbacks, right? So that sounds kind of like heady and crazy, but I
Yeah.
think the goal really is when you plant enough seeds,
Hmm.
confidence, focus, emotional control, when you keep things simple, concrete, repeatable, I think that's really kind of how you build that foundation. Knowing that so many players, right, like they come, everybody has a backstory, a bad coach, a bad season, they jumped
Hmm.
organizations, they were a great player, now they're maybe not, as solid of a player. So I think all of that kind of plays into how you interact with them, how you empower them,
Hmm.
what you tolerate, what you don't tolerate, where you allow them to kind of fester. But younger people need direction. They want to learn. They want the way through. So I think a lot of those things as it relates to setbacks, what
Hmm.
was the goal? How exciting is the comeback going to be? What does the comeback look like? And
Yeah.
understanding really that it's really not winners and losers, right? It's winners and learners. And I know, like, when my parents used to say that, you'd be like, whatever. But it really is right, though.
Yeah.
And I think it takes a coach, a mentor, or somebody, Amanda, like you were saying earlier, to say it's like those are normal thoughts, but like there's nothing wrong with you because you're defeated or sad because you didn't make the team.
Yep. It's okay to feel like,
Regroup, yeah,
yep.
regroup. Now what? Where are the gaps? Let's
Yep.
measure the gains and let's shift to the comeback.
Yep. What can we learn from that? And then go to the next opportunity because
What
everything's
is
just
it,
an
right?
opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's next on the list? That's right.
Game day nerves are real, especially for
Ha.
kids trying to impress scouts or coaches. I feel like I, as a parent, have game day nerves
I know.
as well. What do you do to teach or to help players stay calm and focused under pressure?
Well, I think part of our training is that we teach about pressure, right? So when it
Hmm.
pops up, there's a game plan.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
But I go back to, if we don't know what we should be focusing on, that is not a great feeling. If
Yeah.
if I say this to players all the time, if today's game or this practice, if the only thing that was on your mind was, okay, I'm going to outwork everybody, I'm going to make plays, take chances, and everything's at full speed, like, you can build a belief pattern around those three things that feels very controlled,
Mm-hmm.
and you're the one pulling the strings. So I think a lot of it is shifting the perspective, and rather the what if things are going to go wrong. Like, what if the goal was, I'm going to go out there and be impossible to be ignored? I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
go out there and focus on these three things that are actions and behaviors. So a lot of it is routines. In the absence of routines, we feel good about this game, we feel bad about that game. And why do we feel good about this game? Because we had a good practice yesterday or we had a good game, right? So it's so up and down.
Hmm.
So pre-game nerves, specifics, tapping into those nerves, those feelings, Amanda, like you said earlier, because for all I know, those feelings are excitement. Like, your body physically feels
Hmm.
the same, before a game and like on Christmas Eve. Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
your
Yeah.
tummy's racing, your palms are sweating, but one is excitement, one is, oh my gosh, everything's gonna fall
One's
apart.
fear. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So really being in touch with and peeling back, what is it that we're feeling?
Yeah.
and arming them with tools. So we're tapping into belief, and we're feeling good about those things we can control.
So I had another question here, but
Of course.
I'm gonna sidestep because when Brittany said like her nerves and stuff
Yeah.
too, and it made me think of like tryouts and stuff for for parents. Because I like the anxiety is real for parents.
It's real. It's real.
Oh my God. And the waiting. So I'm going to ask something that I know all parents think about. Like, what's your advice to parents to help us not have a full on freak out?
And show our children that we're freaking out.
And not let that affect our children. Because half the time, like, our kids will mirror our emotions, right? And we don't
Absolutely.
even realize it. So what's a good
Can I tell you
thing for
something?
us?
Yeah. Can I tell you something? It's
Yeah.
so it's so ironic. This is not a sales plug, but right
Yeah.
around tryout, I was asked that question so many times that I
Were you?
built like a 5-day course for
Oh my
parents
God.
just about
Okay.
that. But
Yeah.
the big one though is I bet if you peeled back those feelings, a
Yeah.
lot of the thoughts or the anxiety are based on an outcome. Are we going to make it? Is the player going to
Yes.
make it, or are they going to get cut? Right?
Yeah.
100%. Fear for your child. What are
How
they
sad
going to
are they
feel?
going to
How are they?
be?
When for
Seriously.
all you know, though, for all you know, like ultimately you and Brittany, like you don't have any control over that. For all you know, the coaches are
Zero.
only going to pick players under 5 feet, lefties. Like your
Yeah.
son could go
I
out and
know.
have the greatest tryout ever. It has nothing
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
do with you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Their defense line is full, and my kid never had a shot to begin with. Like, oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
and oh, it's
So
just
I
stressful.
know that you in
Yeah.
your heart believe this, but what ultimately do you want for your son? You want effort, you
Hmm.
want leave it all out there, do
Yeah.
your best, be a good teammate,
Hmm.
manage your emotions, all of the elements of things that really they can control. And I think sometimes, a lot of times, parents feel that the parent can't want it more than the child,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Damn
And
it.
And I think that happens a lot.
yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, because like sometimes you'll find yourself, and I know I'm guilty of it, and I've learned so much through my podcast about myself that I didn't know I'd ever learn. That you're like, okay, well then, if they get on this team, then this is what my life looks like, and this is what my budget looks like, and this is what the schedule is. Like you're pre-planning your life on
Around.
each
Yeah.
team and each tryout before it even happens because you're
So
trying to anticipate.
what if I said to both of you that is okay,
Yeah,
having those thoughts and
thank you.
go going through going through those
Yeah,
going through those exercises, because those are real world things.
yeah,
But I would say the same thing to you is, well, so now what? What do you do
yeah,
with those thoughts, right? Because the youngster sitting next to you, or whatever, the 17-year-old, they are insanely impressionable. They are
yes.
feeding off your emotions. And what what is success really for them also? Like, is it something that ultimately they have no control over? Or is success doing what they can do to control their controllables, giving it their best? The cards, they'll fall where they fall.
Hmm.
Life will be okay. No one is defined by one good tryout, bad tryout. I've been cut by teams. Everybody's been cut by a team. But I do understand that energy, but I do remind parents gently that, like, your sports career is over. It's their sports career, and your parent hat first, not,
Hmm.
hockey mom first.
I swear to God, parents should not even be allowed anywhere near tryouts or anywhere around each other because the energy we feed off from each other of is our kid going to make it? Is my kid now taking their spot? Is their kid taking my spot?
Yeah.
Is like it's like being in high school.
Would that's funny. Would the feeling change though if I said, I don't know if they're going to make it or not, but if you're
Yeah,
in the lobby and they're on the ice, and if I said to you 100% certainty, your son played amazing,
yeah.
gave it his all, controlled his emotions.
Hmm.
You could tell he was confident on the puck. He was making plays. He was getting shots. He competed hard. If I could say to you, if I could hand you that, you take it every day of the week, right?
I would, but then I would also analyze it and be like, oh, he's totally on the team because they said that.
Oh, you can't do that. You can't do that.
I'm just telling you what a crazy neurotic mom would
I know.
like, possibly like myself would think. Would they hear that? Like, as
Yep.
much as
Asking for a friend.
I'm just asking for a friend.
That's hilarious. Yeah,
I'm totally just asking for a friend over here.
that's right. That's right.
And I've, not sheltering any real life emotions that possibly could happen.
That is the most popular question, and
Yeah.
it's so funny because sometimes, if not asked, if I
Yeah.
don't get asked that, I'll
Yeah.
maybe kind of throw that out there. But right around, beginning of February, all
Yeah.
of a sudden March, April, it's like, hey, coach, I had a question. But, they're just emailing, texting like crazy. Everyone has to take a deep breath. And I think when everybody pulls back and says, what is success here? Like, what
Yeah.
can we master and control?
Yeah.
And
I've
it'll
tried not to
fall where it
ask
falls.
coaches anything. I've tried to not ask coaches anything
Just let it
and
be. Yeah.
try not to ask other parents where their kids are playing, because as much as you just want to be nice or find out information, it's like so stressful for every parent. Don't ask
Yep.
questions. Ask about vacations or something
Yep.
else. That is my advice.
Oh, it's so funny. It's so. What's even funnier is that the dads.
Yes.
And I'm not just saying this because I'm around two women right now, but the
Yeah.
dads act like they don't feel this. They just handle it differently, hands in
Oh,
the
I know. They feel
pockets,
it. Yeah.
strutting around the rink, and the moms are, talking, 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 and the dads are like,
Yeah.
yeah, whatever, and but they
The
feel
dads
it
are
too.
doing it too.
Yep.
They just hide it better. Us moms wear it on our faces or put alcohol in our Yetis. Like, I
Yep.
bet you if you sniffed half the Yetis in the arena, you'd know
Allegedly.
everybody had a drinking
Allegedly.
go.
Allegedly.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah.
No, it's fine. That's never happened.
But just like your son is not defined by a tryout, both
Yeah.
of you are not defined
Yeah.
by the results of that tryout. I know it's very hard to
Yeah.
separate it, but
No, I know. I had to make a
rationally,
touch on that for a second since we were talking about the parent rule book. I figured it would be an appropriate insert here
yeah.
because I think I need to read it 12 times and possibly give it to every person I know.
Just so you know, I'm not going to include the alcohol Yeti rule in the next book.
Is
I'm
there a
not.
rule like that, or are you gonna
No,
now?
no, no. But it's funny though because I have been asked before,
Yeah.
joking, but I don't know if it was joking, like elbow, hey, like what are your thoughts on, is there a rule about drinking like in the
Oh my god.
parking lot before games, or like, yeah.
Yes.
Is face painting okay? And I'm like,
Mom
cut it.
juice.
Cut it. Yeah.
Mom
Mom
juice.
juice. Yep.
Yeah. I am
Yeah.
the captain of the bad mom squad for a reason.
Yep.
There's a
That's
reason why I have
hilarious.
to stand in the corner.
That's hilarious.
So, where can people grab a copy of your book, um, sign up for coaching, or learn more about what you're doing for Mental Edge Hockey?
Yeah, and again, I give you guys so much credit for doing what you're doing. I think it's awesome, and I really appreciate the opportunity at mentaledgehockey.com. Books are available there.
Awesome.
Any parent, you can go in, you can book a free discovery call, and if for
Cool.
nothing else, talk through, hey, what's going on with your player? Let me let us kind of see what's going. We chat with the player, we write an assessment, send it out, no cost.
Awesome.
I think the message is to do something. It's relevant. So mentaledgehockey.com is where they can get books, courses, coaching,
Yeah.
all of it.
Awesome.
Perfect. I will make sure to post the links in the show notes where to find you as well.
Yeah.
Thank you. And good job to both of you.
Thank you. And
Yep.
normally I like to ask if you could talk to any sports player, what would you say or whatever, but you've worked with some pros. So I want to know before we finish here, what was something you learned from a pro athlete that you'll never forget?
That is an amazing question. I'll say, you know what? I'm not going to say who it was, but
That's fine.
it was a professional, and they said to me that the hardest part about being a pro was being a pro. And this is not like a super heady sort of person.
Yeah.
So I said, well, like, what does that mean? And they said, like, there's no difference between a random Wednesday night game in Calgary versus
Mm-hmm.
a home game at Madison Square Garden on a Friday night. Like, you got to get up for both.
Mm-hmm.
Yesterday doesn't matter anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, what he was saying was every day has to start at like zero.
Yeah.
So even if you only make maybe two strides, those are positive strides. But when you start at like -5, you could still make those 3 positive strides, right? But you're still like in negative town, right? So
Yeah.
it was that always stuck with me that the hardest part is being a pro. And I understood what he meant
Yeah.
because it's constantly like right here, right now. This is the moment that matters most.
Yeah.
And
Can't worry
therefore you
about
have to, yeah, or tomorrow, or you got to
Yeah.
respect right now.
Yeah.
That's so relevant when we think about like Stanley Cup playoffs and stuff too. They can't worry about yesterday. They just have to worry about this game right now. That is all
Yep.
that matters.
This shift,
This
yeah.
shift. This
Are
shift.
you
Each shift.
are both of you watching the finals? Do you have a thought?
Absolutely. So here's the thing. I'm a Calgary Flames fan. So it hurts to cheer for Edmonton.
Yep.
It
Home,
hurts.
borderline illegal.
Pulled it out the other night, though.
I know.
They pulled it back from 3-0.
But so and I love Kachuk so much. Also because he was Calgary and so is Sam Bennett. And like I feel like they have half the Calgary team on there mostly. And I love instigators so much. Thank you,
Yep.
Marcia.
I can. Yep.
Yeah, I am an instigator. Let's be real. But I love McDavid and I want him to win a cup. And that hurts also to say.
I know.
So I'm torn. But I
Who
want
do
game
you?
7.
Okay. Who do you think is going to win?
Florida.
Well, this is going to post, I feel like, after. After it's all over.
Yeah, you can edit it out. You can
Florida.
edit it out.
Feel Florida.
And who do you want to win is Edmonton?
I don't feel like I can say that.
Edmonton, Canadian team.
You know, my whole life, and yes, Mom, I know you're listening. My whole life, my family told me that I had to be a Canucks fan because I'm from Vancouver Island and they're the home team. So I hate the Canucks. I'm sorry, guys.
Shocker.
Because you can't tell me what to do.
That's why I said shocker.
Yeah. If you tell me I have to be a fan of someone, I'm going to tell you to pound sand. So I don't like the Canucks purely because of my family. And the Canucks can take that up with the Woodruff and Cross family. You're welcome. Yes, Auntie Tracy, that one's for you. So yes, I'm a Calgary fan because my family forced me to be a Canucks fan. And so I digress again on that one. So I had a point and I always forget when I do this.
Who do you want to win?
Who do I want to win? I will not say Edmonton because just because I am a Canadian does not mean I have to cheer for a Canadian team. I want Kachuk and Marchand to win.
There we go.
I don't want the cup to go to the U.S.
Well, the cup will go to some Canadian cities.
Edmonton.
I say Florida.
Oh, hold on. Is this the first fight of the Pucked Up Hockey Moms podcast? Are you guys battling?
We're a little pucked up, so it won't be the
you're
last.
pucked up. Yeah, you're pucked up. Oh, that's so funny.
It won't be the last. We're just going to drink over it later. It'll be fine.
There we go. That's so great.
Nobody can force me to cheer for Canada.
Nobody.
My son lives in the U.S.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That is so funny.
Yeah. Got to stay a little pucked up over here, okay?
Yep. I hope so. Don't lose the edge.
Never. Thank you, Sandy, so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I was
guys
thrilled
too.
that you reached out because I did not have to stalk somebody this time, which is what I do. So thank you.
Yeah, it was really nice to meet you.
I will say this honestly, that I've done not a ton of these, but I've done some like the chemistry between you two is great.
Thank you.
Just do guys. It doesn't have to be anything other than exactly what you want. And I think that some of the best times are when you guys were just kind of riffing and there's some giggling, there's some
Well,
thank you guys so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks for joining us this week on Pucked Up Hockey Moms. We seriously appreciate you listening, laughing, and surviving the hockey mom life right alongside us.
Whether you're in the stands, stuck in carpool, or hiding in the rink bathroom for 5 minutes apiece, we see you and we're right there with you.
This episode was proudly brought to you by AAA Hockey Recruiting, your go-to for player development, showcases, and getting noticed at the next level.
Whether you're aiming for junior, prep, or NCAA, they've got the tools, the know-how, and the hookup. Check them out at AAAHockeyRecruiting.com and tell them the Bad Mom Squad sent you.
Until next time, stay loud, stay proud, and stay a little bit pucked up.